With the conclusion of Marvel Rivals preseason, they also released the official stats for all of their heroes. Most importantly, their win rates and their pick rates, separated by platform and game mode, and even by ranks. And after going through all of the stats, I'd like to share the most important fightings, as well as the best and the worst heroes according to NetEase's own data in Marvel Rivals. Let's dive into it. So after going through the stats, a few things turned up pretty clear. When we are looking at quick play matches, the meta obviously looks a lot different than when compared to competitive, especially as you climb up the ranks. But some of these pick rates and win rates really surprised me. For example, in quick play, the most picked hero is Jeff, apparently. Can you believe it? I guess this guy really is the millennial casual bait and people love playing him. People also hate playing against him, so I guess Jeff means either really just like the cute shark or want to cause a lot of pain against their enemies. And as I continued going down the list for the next few heroes, I noticed that we surprisingly don't see a Duelist for quite a while the most common Duelist in quick play being the Punisher, all the way down at a 8.14% pick rate. According to this, he is the 15th most picked hero after all the Vanguards and Strategists, and obviously the rest of the Duelists are to follow. And while you could try making a smart point here, it's more likely that Duelists have lower pick rates overall because there simply are way more Duelists in the game than in other roles, which means that all picks are spread out more evenly. Or so I thought. But as I was doing the math, I quickly realized that there's something a little bit awry here. These stats are a little bit inaccurate. It seems like the pick rates are divided per role rather than overall, even if you see every single hero on the scoreboard. It is pretty misleading if you want the actual overall stats, but obviously it's going to be spot on if you're just trying to compare the most common picks within each role. So that means that Jeff is not the most picked hero in quick play. He is the most picked hero among the strategists at 21%. Punisher is the most picked hero among the Duelists, 8%. The Venom is the most picked hero among the Vanguards. And if I'd speculate, I'd say that the reason Venom is so high on the list of the Vanguards with a pick rate of 19.09 and Penny falling right behind with a pick rate of 15.65%, and then finally 4 with a 13.36 pick rate, so close to perfection, before anyone even starts playing a shield tank with Doctor Strange at 12.52%, is simply that most meta tanks aren't fun to play, especially in quick play, and they also require somewhat of a team cohesion to actually function. But because quick play is very casual without full team composition, let alone cohesion, then picking up good tanks will have very mixed and, most importantly, not very fun results. These top pick tanks have a much higher degree of self-peel and self-sustain and more easily impactful mechanics, something that most quick play enjoyers most likely would like. When we sort by win rate for quick play, we get a slightly different picture, but overall it sort of tells the same story. In quick play, the hero with the overall highest win rate is Mantis, which makes somewhat of sense because how strong of a support she is thanks to her entire kit, but she also has the ability to defend herself and even get kills for whenever her Duelist teammates are lacking, which is probably most of the time. In the top 6 of win rates for quick play, we get Mantis, Penny Parker, Adam Warlock, Loki, Thor, and finally Hela, who is the Duelist with the highest win rate in quick play at a win rate of 52.86%, closely followed by Magic. Now, I would argue that a composition of Mantis, Penny, Adam, Warlock, Thor, and Hela wouldn't be that good, but maybe there's something really cracked here. We should probably try this out in a future video. Most of these heroes are pretty casual in how they play and usually see better results the more disjointed the enemy team is, so I'm not surprised by these win rates all too much. The one hero that did surprise me was Adam Warlock, since if anything, the guy mostly succeeds in more coordinated team play on account of his lower rate of healing when you compare him to, for example, Luna Snow, and the long cooldown of his bond and, of course, his ultimate. But it's likely that his damage output is doing a lot of the heavy lifting here, along with quick players not really cleaning up Adam Warlock's ultimates up as well as they should. And putting aside quick play, moving on, let's talk about ranked, because I think a lot of you guys watching probably want to know about that more than anything. I figured I'd go over my important findings overall, but there's some vital data that varies per rank, so I'm going to mention the vital details for Grandmaster and above somewhat throughout the entire video. So starting off, of course, we have the pick rates, which we now know are a little bit skewed as they're sort of per role rather than overall. So we'll just split all of this information up per role instead. The most picked strategist is, of course, Luna Snow, who has some of the best, if not the best, healing in the game, with an insanely strong ultimate that stalls out fights and essentially carries most ultimates in the game. And this is what the list looks like when you sort all the strategists by pick rate. Funny enough, if we swap it to win rate, you get a slightly different picture. At the top, you instead have Mantis with the highest win rate overall, followed by Loki, Adam Warlock, and Rocket, bracket, and the next 3 supports have a sub 50% win rate, meaning they lose more games that they are in than they win. This can suggest many things, but what seems to be most likely is not just that the top 4 supports are good or better than, for example, Luna, but with the exception of Mantis, these heroes have a pretty low pick rate, meaning that the people who do play these heroes generally are specialists on these heroes and really know what they're doing. Mantis, Loki, and Adam Warlock are also massive playmakers with huge personal impact outside of heal botting like Luna, which means that the specialists that do play these heroes usually know how to carry on them and impact their games much more than the heal bots, which leads to a higher win rate overall. And when you look at the stats for Grandmaster and above, you can see that the pick rates kind of remain the same, with the same going for win rates. But the most important thing that stands out is that Adam Warlock suddenly becomes the strategist with the highest win rate at 53.42%, which supports what I said earlier about Adam Warlock shining the brightest with coordinated or, well, more higher skilled teams. Mantis is still in the second place behind him, and both of them are usually played after Luna Snow is banned for their abilities as well as their team ups, but it is definitely food for thought. I do wish we had some more data in this thing, like ban rates and stuff like that on the site, but I guess we'll have to make do with what we've got. As for Vanguards in ranked, the most picked Vanguard is going to be Doctor Strange. This makes sense since he is the strongest shield tank in the game and is a must for most compositions with his portal and his stun and, you know, the shield. That being said, his win rate isn't the highest in his role, unlike Mantis, who single-handedly topped both pick rates and win rates, and that's most likely because while he is a strong shield tank with some pretty good potential for carrying thanks to his wide kit and ultimate, that doesn't stop the fact that he is a shield tank, and as such, he can't really secure picks and make massive plays on his own outside of his ultimate or the occasional pick here and there. Overall, the over 2 most picked Vanguards are Penny Parker and Venom, which most likely for the same reason that we see them being played in Quickplay. There is not much support for the tanks in the lower to mid ranks, and both of these heroes have better self-sustain, they have more of a playmaking capability against less coordinated teams, and dare I say it, they are noob baits. My opinion is supported by the fact that Penny has a 53% win rate when looking at her overall stats in ranked, but as you look into her stats in Grandmaster and above, it plummets to 50.09%. Her pick rate also drops significantly, so that implies that there are some specialists in GM and above. And while we don't have the specific stats for Eternity or One Above All or above, I can tell you from experience that I would be surprised if her win rate is anywhere above, I don't know, 48 or 49% at the very top of the ranked ladder. In the same vein, when you look at Grandmaster and above, you can see that as for the pick rate, at the very top you have Doctor Strange, who actually gets banned a ton, so I wouldn't be surprised if the pick rate would be higher without bans. And then you have Magneto, followed by Groot, and then Hulk, and then all the other non-shield tanks. As for win rates, this is something that a lot of people came after me for in my tier list, and that is that Hulk is really good. I am not surprised to see that Hulk is the strongest tank in higher rank lobbies with an almost outlier win rate of 54%. This makes a lot of sense to me, not only thanks to the team up that both enables Doctor Strange and Iron Man, both very popular picks, but also because of how good this guy is once you get to learn him. The amount of crowd control, space control, and the amount of ways that Hulk can shut down enemy plays cannot be matched by anyone. And as the lobbies become more organized and people get better at playing the roles, he really shines through. Also, as a Magneto enjoyer, it pains me to say that Magneto is somewhat surprisingly at a sub 50% win rate as well, despite his higher pick rate. Most likely his pick rate is so low because of the rise of certain divers, but he is also a pretty high skill ceiling tank that not many play well. Because of bans, he also gets shafted a lot since Doctor Strange gets banned, which then forces Magneto to be the solo tank, and Magneto is pretty rough to solo tank on. His impact is also fairly limited since other than his ultimate, his kit mostly revolves around enabling other players rather than popping off and making big plays himself, which generally means that he won't be able to have a high consistent win rate as he is very dependent on the 5 other players on the team, more so than himself, somewhat like Luna Snow. And finally, when we look at the Duelist, the most picked here will of course be Hela with a 12.86% pick rate, which is way more than anyone else. This is also where I'd love to see the ban rates, since without bans, I'm sure it would be hell of a lot higher. For example, in Platinum, Hela has a pick rate of 18%, but in Grandmaster and above, it's only 6.31. That's literally just because of her being banned in almost every single game, rather than nobody playing her, because as everyone should know by now, she is straight up broken. The next few heroes are Moon Knight, Psylocke, the Punisher, and Hawkeye. Overall, the least picked duelists are Wolverine, Black Widow, and Storm, which is interesting when you look at Grandmaster and above. above. I mean, Storm and Black Widow are still terrible and nobody worth their salt are playing them, but Wolverine actually starts seeing some play as you climb up the ranks. Overall, Wolverine only has a pick rate of about 1.95% among the duelists and a win rate of 48%, but when sorting for Grandmaster and above, his pick rate more than doubles and he has a win rate of 52.16%. This is most likely because he is a counter meta hero who can disrupt and throw off high-end, but most importantly, inflexible players, and he really succeeds when his teammates are playing around him. That being said, he is absolutely terrible in actual tournaments from what I've seen, and he falls apart if people just shoot at him. So there is a limit to his impact as you get into the real competitive lobbies. As for overall duelist win rates, at the top we of course have Hela with the win rate of 54.24%, followed by Magic, Black Panther, Psylocke, and Namor. Again, this would probably be a better indicator of the hero's overall strength, since whether a hero is banned or not, their win rates should remain the same, if not higher, assuming that their counters will be banned instead of them. Now, Hela doesn't really have a counter, but it definitely rings true for the rest of the top duelists. And as for duelists, when we sort for Grandmaster and above, we start seeing some truly, if you ask me, weird stats. The hero with the highest win rate is Magic, probably because of some dive enjoyers and Magic mains making her work without anyone properly shutting them down, though I haven't seen much Magic play, let alone good impact Magic play in Eternity or One Above All, at least in my games. And even worse, followed by Magic, there's Iron Fist with a 54% win rate, but most importantly, only a 1.60% pick rate. I don't think he gets banned that much, but I do know that most players don't know how to deal with him. So with the low pick rates, this implies that the players that do play Iron Fist are specialists, along with the fact that the enemies rarely get to practice against them, which sort of means that they inflate this win rate by a lot. Again, I rarely see Iron Fist in Eternity plus either. I wish there was a filter for this as well. And if they do get picked, they usually just bullied out and struck right back into GM, if anything. Iron Man, however, makes a lot of sense, even in the top lobbies. He has been a bit of a sleeper pick. I even wrote him off myself initially, but the community has woken up and warmed up to him in the last few weeks. When you couple him with the whole team up, Iron Man has an insanely high damage output, both with his primary and secondary fire, to the point where running him without the power-up is short of throwing. This is reflected in his Grandmaster and above win rates at 52.70%. He also has a decent pick rate at about 6.69%, but it is worth noting that Hulk very often is banned in these lobbies to stop people from playing both Hulk because of, you know, how good he is on his own, as well as stopping both Iron Man and Doctor Strange from getting the actual very strong team up. Overall, I am not too surprised by these stats, and the ones that did surprise me are most likely impacted by Grandmaster lobbies, more so than Eternity and One Above All lobbies, because obviously there's going to be so many more players in Grandmaster than in One Above All or Eternity that a lot of stats will be skewed towards the Grandmaster side of things rather than the very top. But nevertheless, I am glad that NetEase did release all of the stats so we can tell what's going on and what goes into their balancing changes between seasons. They say that the stats will update in the middle and the end of the next season, so I'll make sure to cover those as well. And if you want to see a summary of that, make sure to subscribe. I hope this was helpful, and check out the video on the screen if you want to know more about Marvel Rivals. Anyways, thank you for watching and see you all next time. Peace out.